The city on edge. Strasbourg, July 1518. The summer heat lies heavy over the city like a fevered blanket. The Rhine glitters in the distance, but here in the cramped streets, the air is stale, thick with the smell of unwashed bodies and the acrid tang of rotting grain. Famine gnaws at bellies, bread is scarce, and what little there is comes hard and bitter. Every clang of the cathedral bells feels sharper than it should, echoing in alleyways where merchants mutter about God's wrath and women clutch talismans against the evil eye. The city's pulse is quick, impatient. A brawl breaks out over a sack of rye. Children cry for food, and somewhere in the din, a group of old women huddle in the shadows, whispering in the tongue of their grandmothers, words the church has long forbidden. They speak of the old rites, buried but not dead, and of debts that the living still owe to the restless. It is into this smoldering unrest that Frau Trophia steps from her narrow doorway and into the marketplace. At first, no one notices her, just another woman in a faded dress, her hair pinned hastily back. Then she begins to move, slowly at first, swaying, as though testing the ground beneath her feet. The motion grows, spilling from her hips into her arms, her head tilting back to some rhythm that no one else can hear. Shoppers pause, confused. She spins once, twice, and her feet slap the cobblestones with a strange, syncopated urgency. Faces turn toward her, curious, wary. The movements grow wilder, sharper. Her cheeks flush with heat, her eyes fixed on nothing, and the marketplace noise seems to drain away, leaving only the sound of her saws striking the stone. Hours later, the sun dips low and the shadows lengthen. She is still moving, hair plastered to her temples, dress darkened with sweat. People watch in a mix of fascination and unease, some crossing themselves, others whispering that she's bewitched. Finally, well into the night, she collapses to the ground, her chest heaving, her face pale as parchment. At dawn, as the city stirs to life, Frau Trophia returns to the square. She does not speak. She does not greet a soul. She only begins to move again. This time her limbs jerk violently, like a marionette bound to unseen strings, dancing to music no living ear can hear. Cliffhanger. The crowd watches in silent dread, unsure if they are witnessing madness or the first note of something far darker. The contagion of movement. By the third day, the spectacle has stopped being a curiosity and started to feel like a warning. The marketplace fills not with merchants and customers, but with spectators, drawn as if by gravity to watch the strange woman dance. Then it begins. A baker's apprentice, leaning too close, suddenly jolts forward, his knees buckling in an awkward rhythm. At first, he laughs, embarrassed, but the laughter fades when his hands begin to twitch in time with his feet. A seamstress next to him joins in, her thread and needle falling to the cobblestones as her body sways and shudders. By dusk, there are 20 of them. By the next morning, more than 50. Men, women, even children, spinning, stamping, lurching as if drunk on some invisible wine. The rhythm is not constant. It lurches, accelerates, then slows in strange patterns. No one speaks. No one sings. Only the shuffle and slap of blistered feet on stone. Some weep as they move, tears cutting lines through the grime on their cheeks. Others grit their teeth, their jaws locked tight. A few smile faintly, but their eyes are glassy, unfocused. Mothers hold infants to their breasts while their own bodies convulse in time to a beat only they can hear. The city's physicians stand at the edge of the crowd, taking notes in puzzled frustration. The priests cross themselves. Merchants bolt their doors. And yet the crowd of dancers swells, not from new onlookers, but from onlookers who become dancers, as if proximity alone is enough to pull them into the current. Near sunset, a thin, barefoot boy collapses in the center of the square. His mother rushes forward, pulling him into her arms, whispering prayers over his trembling body. His lips crack as he tries to speak, and she bends low to hear. Through a rasping breath, the boy whispers, "I can't, he's still calling me." The words freeze her blood, because the boy's voice doesn't sound entirely like his own. Cliffhanger. The mother looks up to find her son's eyes fixed, not on her, but on something in the empty air behind her shoulder. the cure that feeds the curse. The city council meets behind closed doors, the muffled hum of debates spilling into the hallway. Priests, magistrates, and physicians sit shoulder to shoulder in the stifling heat, each with their own theory: divine wrath, humors out of balance, the devil's mischief. The physicians win the day. Their verdict: hot blood, an excess of heat in the body that must be bled out through motion. And so, the cure is not to restrain the dancers, but to let them dance. Orders go out to the guilds. Carpenters build wooden stages in the market square. Musicians are hired. Pipers, drummers, fiddlers, paid not to soothe the afflicted, but to drive them faster, harder. The air soon swells with frantic melodies, the kind of music that coils in the belly and refuses to let go. At first, the dancers seem almost grateful for the rhythm. They move with a strange unity now, their steps sinking in ways that make onlookers uneasy. But as hours turn to days, the music changes. The fiddlers complain their fingers ache, the drummers' palms split and bleed. Yet they keep playing, because when they stop, even for a heartbeat, the dancers wail like starving animals. By the fourth day, the square is a grotesque carnival. The sun beats down, baking the cobblestones, and the air reeks of sweat, blood, and rotting food dropped and trampled underfoot. The dancers' clothes hang in tatters, their skin blistered from heat and strain. But the music never stops. It can't. Then, as the sun sets and the shadows lengthen, something strange happens. The musicians, exhausted, half delirious, swear they see movement at the edges of the crowd. Not more dancers, but shapes. Tall, thin figures swaying in perfect time with the music, their faces hidden in the darkness. One fiddler drops his bow when he sees a figure lean close to a dancer and whispers something into her ear. The woman shudders, and her body jerks with renewed violence. When the torchbearers lift their flames to get a better look, the shapes are gone. Cliffhanger. Yet the music seems louder now, and no one can say exactly who or what is keeping the beat. Death in the Footlights. By the sixth day, the market square has become an open-air theater of misery. The wooden stages groan under the weight of bodies in constant motion, every board slick with sweat and streaked with dark smears where bare feet have split open. The music still blares, relentless pipes and pounding drums, but it no longer sounds festive. It is a frantic, driving pulse that seems less like entertainment and more like command. The dancers are gaunt now, their cheeks hollow, their lips cracked and bleeding. Some move stiffly, as though their joints are rusted, yet they cannot stop. Others spin so violently that they fall, strike the ground hard, and rise again without a sound, eyes glazed and limbs trembling. Then the first collapse comes. A merchant's son stumbles mid-step and crumples to the floorboards. At first, the crowd thinks he's merely fainted, but when a bystander bends to lift him, his head rolls to the side, his mouth slack, his chest still. The boy's feet twitch once, twice, and then go still forever. The onlookers gasp, but the music does not falter. The other dancers do not stop. In fact, their movements seem sharper, more frenzied, as if the death in their midst has only fed the rhythm. By nightfall, there are more. A washerwoman falls forward, her face striking the boards with a sickening crack. A young man spins until his knees buckle, pitching into the crowd. The dead are lifted away, their bodies limp, but the rest continue, as though the dancers no longer see them at all. And then comes the most unsettling sight yet. Near midnight, a merchant's wife, pale and breathless, sways forward, her knees folding beneath her. She lies still for several minutes before being carried away by her husband, who sobs openly as he disappears down the alley. But hours later, long after her body should be at home, laid out in stillness, several witnesses swear they see her in the marketplace again. She is barefoot, her dress torn at the hem, moving among the crowd with that same vacant stare, and her feet keep perfect time with the music. Cliffhanger. One man swears he saw her mouth moving, but no sound came out, only the faintest curl of a smile. Whispers of the saint's curse. The city's fear begins to twist into rumor. Mothers clutch their children tighter, merchants shutter their stalls, and priests hurry through the streets, sprinkling holy water over the twisted, jerking bodies. Whispers spread. Saint Vitus is angry. The patron saint of dancers and epileptics, they say, curses those who dishonor him. It is an old belief, tucked into half-forgotten sermons, warnings told to children on winter nights. Now, it feels alarmingly real. People murmur that the dancers' motions are unnatural, not of their own will, but commanded by a force unseen. Pilgrims arrive from distant villages, claiming visions. One old woman, kneeling at the edge of the square, insists she saw shadowed faces in the crowd, watching the dancers with grim satisfaction. Another says she heard a voice, deep and rasping, whispering over the throng, "Move until you are free, or until you die." Even children, who should be too young to understand, speak of strange phenomena. One boy clings to his mother's skirts, eyes wide, trembling as he recounts what he saw among the dancers' eyes. They are not themselves. There's something behind them, watching. The most chilling report comes from a young pilgrim, barely 10, who stares at the dancers and shivers. He swears that one of the women, mid-twirl, face pale with sweat, leaned close to him and murmured in a voice that is not her own, deep and mad. The river is almost full. The words hang in the night air, heavy with dread. No one knows what they mean. Some mutter of curses, others of divine punishment. The city holds its collective breath, realizing that whatever grips Strasbourg, it may not be broken by human hands or reason alone. Cliffhanger. As the boy backs away, he turns to see every dancer pause for the briefest moment, eyes lifting to the shadows above, as if listening to something waiting. Visions of the Black River. When the dancers are finally dragged away from the square for brief rests, those who survive the frenzy speak of the same haunting vision. It begins as a murmur in the mind, a low hum beneath their ears. Then comes the sight, a black river flowing beneath the cobblestones, carrying shadows that writhe and coil like smoke. The water glints with a strange, oily sheen under no light at all, and a voice, not heard but felt, whispers promises of freedom, of relief, if they surrender entirely to motion. Those pulled from the square recall more. Faces reflected in the river, twisted and unfamiliar, staring up at them with hollow eyes. Some claim to see themselves dancing endlessly along its banks, limbs jerking in impossible angles, mouths opening in silent screams. Others feel the current tugging at their feet, urging them back to the square even as their bodies scream for rest. Panic spreads alongside the visions. Families huddle together, praying, but the images persist. Even those who never danced speak of nightmares filled with shadowy figures and a river flowing just beneath their homes. Children begin muttering words in strange rhythms, tapping their feet in secret, as if rehearsing a dance only they can hear. The city's archivist, an aging man who has seen every corner of Strasbourg's labyrinthine streets, grows obsessed. Late one night, by candlelight, he pores over maps and documents. There it is, a forgotten underground waterway running beneath the square, long sealed and ignored. It leads to a ruin of a pagan shrine, overgrown and hidden beneath the foundations of the city. The discovery chills him. Could the visions be more than fevered hallucinations? Could the ancient rites of old Strasbourg still pulse beneath their feet, feeding the madness above? Cliffhanger. He descends the hidden steps, lantern trembling in hand, and hears a faint tapping, not from the river, but above. The dancer's steps, still echoing somewhere in the night, calling him into the darkness. The Heretic Bloodline. Father Albrecht had spent decades in Strasbourg's shadowed archives, poring over parchment and ink, uncovering the sins and secrets of generations. He had long suspected the city carried whispers of ancient wrongs, but nothing prepared him for what he discovered now. As he traced the names of the afflicted dancers, a pattern emerged, one that sent a cold shiver crawling down his spine. Every single dancer was descended from families condemned for heresy decades earlier. Men and women burned at the stake for defying the church, for embracing beliefs the authorities called blasphemous. Even those executed in secret left traces, hidden tombs, forgotten marks of defiance, lingering curses whispered in the cracks of stone walls. The implication was terrifying. Had the sins of the past risen like smoke to choke the present? Was this frenzy punishment from God, or revenge from the restless dead? Father Albrecht's hand trembled as he copied the lineage into his ledger, the candlelight flickering over his pale, strained face. Each name felt like a knell, echoing across the decades. Night brought no comfort. In his modest chamber, Father Albrecht found an envelope slipped beneath his door. The paper was yellowed, brittle, and unmarked, yet when he unfolded it, only a single message stared back. They danced once before, and it ended in fire. The words burned into his mind. He could not tell if it was a warning, a prophecy, or a threat. Outside, the city pulsed with the rhythm of the dancing plague, as if the past itself had taken to the streets, moving through the descendants of those long-dead heretics. Cliffhanger. As he looked out the window, he noticed a figure among the dancers, someone whose face seemed eerily familiar, yet distorted by shadows, staring directly at him and smiling. The Shrine of Silence. Desperation has a weight that presses on every shoulder, and by the 7th week, Strasbourg's leaders can bear it no longer. The dancers, gaunt and fevered, have become a blur of motion in the square, a thrumming, living mass of pain and obsession. Something must be done, something decisive, irreversible. They choose the remote shrine of Saint Vitus, tucked away on the outskirts of the city, where sunlight filters weakly through stained glass, casting fractured patterns on the stone floor. The dancers are led there under guard, their wrists bound loosely at first, then more tightly as their motions grow wilder with each step. Candles sputter along the walls, their flames quivering in the drafts, as if alive with the tension in the air. Priests sprinkle holy water and chant prayers over the afflicted, waving relics of the saint in trembling hands. The floor beneath their feet seems to shiver with anticipation. Each dancer is placed in the center of a circle of salt and iron, symbols meant to contain the madness. And yet, the rhythm within them does not wane. The beat pulses invisibly, stubborn and unrelenting, a drum only they can hear. Hours pass. One by one, the dancers collapse, their bodies folding into the stone as if finally surrendered. Their breaths slow, their jerks fade. For a fleeting moment, the square is hushed, almost sacred. Relief flickers in the eyes of the onlookers. Then, a single, deliberate tap echoes from the far corner of the shrine. One set of footsteps. Slow, methodical. Not a dancer, not a priest. Someone, or something, is moving among the shadows. The candle flames flicker violently, throwing elongated shapes across the walls, twisting familiar forms into monstrous silhouettes. The last dancer falls, their chest rising and falling in shallow, trembling breaths. Silence finally grips the room, deafening, suffocating. Cliffhanger, and then the footsteps continue. Across stone, across time, a presence unseen, deliberate, approaching. Whoever, or whatever, has been watching is still here, waiting, the smile in the crowd. Weeks have passed since Strasbourg exhaled in temporary relief. The city, though scarred and exhausted, dares to hope that the nightmare is finally over. But far beyond its walls, in a quiet village nestled along the Rhine, the same impossible rhythm begins anew. It starts subtly, a foot tapping here, a hand swinging there. By midday, a small crowd gathers in the town square, drawn by curiosity. Then, without warning, the movement spreads. Men, women, even children convulse in jerky marks, spinning and stepping as though caught in a spell. The villagers try to intervene, but resistance only seems to fuel the frenzy. Amid the chaos, one figure stands out. A woman, her dress torn at the hem, hair matted with sweat, steps lightly among the dancers. Her movements are flawless, yet her eyes are empty, dark pools that seem to watch more than they dance. Slowly, she turns her head, and a chill runs through anyone who meets her gaze. It is unmistakable. She is a survivor from Strasbourg. Her presence here is proof that the plague, or whatever force grips the dancers, has not been contained. Worse, there is a subtle, horrifying delight in her expression. She smiles, faintly, knowingly, as if aware of something the others cannot see. The villagers recoil, but she does not stop. Her lips part, and in a voice low and soft, carrying just enough clarity to be heard over the freezing tapping and pounding, she whispers, "He's coming." Silence falls over those nearby, a dread that spreads faster than thought. The words linger like smoke, hinting at a force that is patient, ancient, and far from finished. Cliffhanger, as the crowd spins and jerks around her, the survivor's smile widens, and somewhere in the distance, the faint echo of another, unseen drummer begins. The dance that never ends. Strasbourg breathes again, but the city is changed forever. Streets once filled with laughter are now haunted by memory. The echo of frantic footsteps, the ghostly thrum of drums only the dancers can hear. Families mourn the lost, and survivors bear the invisible scars of exhaustion, fever, and terror. Yet even as life resumes, the question gnaws at the edges of every mind. Was it simply mass hysteria, poisoned grain, or something older? Something hungry that feeds on human despair? Reports begin to trickle from distant towns. A small village near the Rhine sees young women swaying uncontrollably in the square. A remote hamlet in the Vosges Mountains hears the faint slap of feet against stone at night. Each tale echoes Strasbourg's horrors, yet the watchers remain unseen. Some claim the dance is not merely physical. Those who survive whisper of visions, shadowy rivers flowing beneath the earth, voices murmuring from nowhere, and glimpses of figures in the corners of their eyes, always observing, always guiding. Every story ends the same way. The dancers vanish from sight, but the rhythm remains, lingering in the air like smoke, or perhaps like a heartbeat. And in the deepest hours of night, when the moon casts long silver shadows over empty squares, there is the faintest sound. Footsteps, soft at first, then gathering, one after another, tapping, echoing, a reminder that whatever began in Strasbourg has never truly ended. It moves, patient and deliberate, from town to town, city to city, forever seeking its next dancers. Final image, a